Disclaimer. The content provided in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. While we discuss topics related to mental health advice, life wisdom, and alike, the opinions expressed are personal views of the hosts and do not constitute professional, legal, or medical advice. We make no representations or warranties about the accuracy or completeness of the information discussed. Any action you take based on the information in this podcast is strictly at your own risk, and we are not liable for any losses or damages in connection with its use. Additionally, this podcast may contain discussions around addictions, substances, which are intended for adult audiences. We do not endorse any illegal activities. Please consult your local laws before engaging in any actions related to this content. By listening to this podcast, you agree that you are over the age of 18 or the age of majority in your jurisdiction and understand the terms of this disclaimer.
Welcome to the Balancing Forces podcast, where two opposites collide in the best way possible. One brings the fire,
the other keeps it chill.
But together we share life's lessons, hard-earned wisdom,
advice you can actually use.
Whether you need a fresh perspective or just a laugh, we're here to elevate your mind. So buckle up, because things are about to get real and
really funny.
Are you ready to level up your astrology game? Join the Alchemist Laboratory by Solar Systems. For just $33 a month, you get access to 10+ courses, a resource library, manifestation secrets, live Q&As, and so much more. Over $2,300 in value. Transform your understanding of astrology and unlock hidden knowledge. Sign up now through the school app and follow Solar Systems on TikTok and Instagram.
Chapter 21, Diamonds and Raw Sewage. Once my clients understand the need to become themselves and allow their true selves to come up and out, and after they express the frustrations of not knowing who their true selves really are, I tell them, the single biggest mistake people make in trying to get happy is that they do more things that make them happy. Pause. Pause. Breathe. Now, yes, read that again. Doing more of what you love, or worse, having more of what you love, and the constant possession, acquisition, and consumption, as if cluttering your outer world will somehow fix your inner world, is not the answer. Or, maybe accurately, doing and having more of what you love is only half the answer, at best. I'm not against doing, having, being, believing, saying, and becoming who you really are. In fact, that is part of the true essence of the spiritual life. But again, it is only a partial fix, one easily mistaken for the full solution. Imagine that everything in your life that makes you happy, everything that breathes life into you, every person, place, path, plan, and purpose that either energizes you or brings peace is a diamond you're holding in your cupped hands in front of you. You gaze at them happily, delighting in how great it makes you feel to have them. However, there's a problem. And the problem is that you can't really appreciate, much less see, your diamonds because you have giant pipes above your head disgorging raw sewage onto you. It's pouring over your head, onto your body, and it's getting in your eyes, even though you try to keep them shut. It gets up your nose and even into your sealed mouth because you have to breathe. It's all over your body, down your crack, and splattering all over the ground around you. And by raw sewage, I mean sludge, cigarette butts, rat feces, big guy pubic hairs, half-eaten cans of cat food, coffee grounds, urine, and well, you can imagine the rest. Truth is, it doesn't matter one bit how many diamonds you have in your hands. If you have raw sewage pouring over you and getting into every orifice of your body, you ain't ever going to be able to appreciate those diamonds, no matter how high their count or how grand and glorious they might be under other circumstances. Well, just as those diamonds are every positive, life-giving energy source in your life, the raw sewage is every negative energy source in your life. Every person, place, thing, purpose, plan, path, climate, geography, inner beliefs and thoughts, or whatever else that sucks the life out of you, numbs you, bores you, or for which you have to conjure energy just to go into, or engage in any way. The raw sewage is every last thing that pulls you from and drags you down, tries to control you, depress you, bleeds you, heightens your anxiety, or in any way takes you away from happiness and peace. And because it pours down in such copious amounts and gets in every orifice, eventually all you see, smell, taste, hear, and touch is raw sewage. All you experience is the negative for the most part, and that ain't no way to live. But here's the crazy thing about raw sewage. about negative energy sources. It doesn't take some grand amount in order for it to obscure everything you see, taste, touch, hear, and smell. You could have just one garden hose above your head doing drip, drip, drip with the raw sewage onto you. Eventually, it will still get into your eyes, nose, mouth, etc. Eventually, everything you see, taste, touch, smell, and hear will be clouded with the negativity of raw sewage. Eventually, even small amounts have the capacity to ruin your experience of the diamonds. Negative energy sources are that powerful. To draw a parallel, 250,000 gallons of drinking water can be contaminated by a mere 1 quart of oil. That's power. Negative energy sources in our lives have an enormous power. It is indisputable that a drip amount of raw sewage is certainly better than vast amounts pouring into your life. So yes, it does behoove you to begin to close, reduce, or cut off negative energy sources in your life, even if you can't fully eliminate them all right now. So here's what I want you to do. I recommend that you pour yourself a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, relax, pull out a piece of paper and a pen, then draw a vertical line from the top to the bottom in the center of the page. Now, right at the top of the left half of the word diamonds, and on the top right, write the word raw sewage. Underneath diamonds, write positive energy sources, and underneath raw sewage, write negative energy sources. Draw a horizontal line under those headings, and now the fun begins. That gives you energy, inspires you, excites you, or gives you peace, relaxes you, pleases you, or brings relief and calm. List every person, thing, place, path, geography, culture, food, purpose, clothing, activity, everything. Large, medium, or small, even the tiny that brings you even the smallest measure of joy or peace. Nothing is insignificant or unimportant. If it brings you joy, peace, invigoration, enthusiasm, aspiration, calm, relief, or even a simple smile. This isn't just a gratitude list. Similar, but different. This is a list for the purpose of identifying that which you love, that which feels good, great, inspiring, or peace-bringing, not to give thanks for it, to begin it or do it more of it. So list everything you could do or become or dream of doing or saying or already do, have, say, wear, think about, become, etc. My own list is very long and always getting longer and shorter and longer and shorter, from the seemingly mundane to the profound, and well into the ridiculous. Here is my list as a way to help you get started. Sven's Diamonds Positive Energy Sources. White elephant gifts, the stupider the better, and generally giving them even more than getting them. Piping hot mocha latte and sitting by my fire pit outside while doing my morning journaling. In the summer, wearing a white tank top, undershirts only, with shorts and sneakers, no socks. Biking in the extreme traffic of the financial district of Manhattan, New York City at midday. Changing lives. The perfect climate of my former city and home, Berkeley, California. Waking up at 3 a.m. to write. Going to bed early. Laying in bed in the morning with Karen, listening to the Writer's Almanac with Garrison Keillor. Hitting the weights only once a week for 5 hours. Watching Yukiko Sato conduct on YouTube. As a child, I would nightly live out my fantasy of conducting an orchestra and choir by standing in front of the dark windows in our living room, blare the stereo to some concerto, and air conduct the Boston Pops or the Academy of the St. Martin in the Fields. Living on a diet largely comprised of chips and salsa, McDonald's sausage, burritos, and Oreos. Scotch, non-peaty, or straight whiskey. Reliving entire conversations while I'm biking and re-arguing them so that I win this time. Holding an audience in rapt attention, bending their minds, challenging them. Beer pong with Colburn and LSU mutts he calls friends. Counseling for hours with a client and taking them deeper and deeper. Going into a state of deep relaxation and seeing the brilliant ideas and insights that come from this powerful deep state. And I do it just by laying on my back, sometimes drifting into sleep, sometimes not. Being challenged to let go of more wants, more feelings, more people, more things I want to have by the universe. Text messages from my daughter. Bright orange and Kelly green. Badass guys who are really friendly and kind because they know they don't have to act all hardcore. Period movies. My wisdom, clever stories, quotes, and nuggets I pull up from stuff I've experienced or learned. Camping. My vanity, particularly regarding my body. The smell of coffee. Trusting my own instincts over all influences, great and small. Masturbating. Laughing at myself or about my life, particularly when I'm alone. When my siblings and I decide to suck it up, shut up, and play nice for my parents' 60th anniversary. It felt great and was a great gift for mom and dad, whether they were aware of the animus haunting our relationship or not. Breakfast with my parents, enjoying their ritual of morning devotions and prayer, which they've been doing every day of my life. Serving my girlfriend, her sisters, her daughters, her company, and her darn dogs. Swearing loudly with flair. Aggressive, intense, fiercely passionate people. Mozarts in all forms, at all times, but especially at Lincoln Center with the New York Philharmonic. Doing physical labor for my brother, John, while he creates some big home project. Time with Todd, Lisa, and Jay, my favorite friends. The challenge is to be still, relaxed, and trust the next calling will come. Wearing jeans, dress shoes, and a tight t-shirt to work as a spiritual counselor each day. Old Chicago, before Terry Kath died. Excessively fat people who work out at the gym. I so respect that because I know the extreme mental energy they have to draw up from their soul each day to do it, and they inspire me. Living in the Light, Gawain, The Power of the Myth, Campbell and Moyers, and Illusions by Bach. Telling people, mainly my girlfriend, when anything is from or even remotely related to Minnesota, such as Prince, Bob Dylan, Judy Garland, Charles Schultz, Dairy Queen, and the Vikings, Twins, Wild, and Wolves. God's two greatest gifts to humanity, the beauty of women and the capacity to create music. I possess neither, but the admiration and love I have for both inspires me. Exposing my real self to you in this list. I am literally laughing right now. A ridiculous list, right? Oh, it totally is, and I acknowledge that. And most people would never be so dumb as to share it with others, nor would there be a need to. In fact, I recommend not sharing yours with others. It should be very personal and thus private in the beginning stages. But I am deliberately revealing a lot to show you the extent of what you must do in being honest with yourself. See, it's my list. I love it. Everything on that list is so important to me in some way, great or small, presently or possibly in the future. Further, that list is a small fraction of all of the things that bring me joy in life and might bring me joy or peace in the future. Note also, the list reflects things outside of me and inside of me, things I feel, things I believe, paths I press towards, and things of the past. I am not a believer in just living in the present. I live in wherever there is joy, calm, ecstasy, and sublime. The list is constantly growing, too. Constantly. I am ever adding new items, deleting or reducing things that have faded or no longer bring me joy. It's a fluid list. Additionally, nearly every single thing on that list is something I do or think about or spend time on every week. Or if it's more of an occasional thing, I do it at least a couple times of a year, such as visiting my parents or going camping. Fundamentally, everything on that list is, in some form or another, what I consider a spiritual discipline for me. Each is something I have to do to feed my own soul. I have to because I want to. The less I do of them, the more my soul starts to run dry. They don't require effort to do because I enjoy them, and or my commitment to them is not a burden, but a joy. In that sense, they are truly effortless. But they do require a life that stays focused on ever increasing them and doing them, when it is so easy to get swept up, distracted, and swept away from my true self by all the things others want me to do or all the things that I think I'm supposed to do or should do. Okay, Now, go over to the right side of that page, and now is when things get interesting. Really interesting. Now is when the greatest candor and honesty are required of you. This is where the proverbial rubber hits the road. Begin to list every person, place, thing, belief, climate, clothing style, sexual act, societal expectation, family demand, self-image, daily activity, career path, or what have you that drains you, bores you, sucks the life out of you, bleeds you, numbs you, aggravates you, frustrates you, angers you, hurts you, drives you nuts, or that you have to conjure massive energy just to start, internal and external, big, medium, small, even tiny. List every should, supposed to, obligation, duty, responsibility, drag, drain, implicit requirement, and on that is just not you. Not what you're about, not what you want to be about. Anything that's in your life that doesn't feel good and never has felt good, or used to feel good but doesn't, or just grates at the very essence of your soul. Your items in this list may not matter one bit to anyone else, but they bug or bleed you, just as the stuff that inspires me wouldn't inspire you or most people. So the things that suck the life out of you might not do so for someone else, but they drain your life energy. They keep you from aliveness, and for that reason, they are very significant and need to be on that list. There are no rules here. If you hate it, dislike it, loathe it, or don't want it, put it on the raw sewage list. To give you a bit of an idea of what a raw sewage list looks like, here is one from me. However, please understand that my entire life work in my own spiritual life is about cutting out the negative energy sources. So I'm including items that were on the list for me in the past but no longer are, as well as a few present elements. Sven's raw sewage, negative energy sources. Cloudy days. I could handle the fierce cold of the Minnesota winters and even the snow, but not the gray skies of November, December, late February, March, and April. Ties. Know-it-alls. Guys with the smart guy in the room syndrome. People who won't simply say, I don't know. Abusive women. The belief that I'll never succeed at what I love. The taste of coffee and the smell of coffee beans roasting. The belief my penis was not big enough. Classical music on Sunday afternoon. Hate it. I love classical, but often had orchestra concerts on Sundays as a kid, when I wanted to be home watching the Vikings or playing football outside with the neighborhood boys. My sore thumbs from the football league I played in 2 years ago. Clients who don't pay. My jeans always falling down and making my butt look saggy. My own desire to have more money and fame, i.e. security and approval, and how that sometimes cripples my creativity and relaxation. Flavorless cantaloupe. Stupid stuff my family expects me to do, but I'm not interested in. The challenge to be still, relax, and trust the next calling will come. The time wasted and negative energy drafted from being on Facebook. All the career closed doors I've encountered in life, which when mixed with the external criticism, made me suicidal for years, decades ago, which brought so many powerful insights, not the least of which were regarding the teachings and the blessings from closed doors. Always wanting more clients, more stuff to write, and more speaking gigs. When I put the negative energy out there into the universe towards others. Having to shave my head each day, but having a bald spot and a receding hairline, such that I feel I have no choice. My vanity regarding my career in particular. Apologizing when I know the person won't reciprocate with their share of the fault. Witnessing non-deliberate parenting. Thoughts that who I am isn't good enough and that I need to do and have more in order to feel good, which is asinine because I love me most of the time. I'm generally a reasonably interesting fellow, and I excel at good-natured poking fun at myself. Being in a years-long fight with my formerly closest brother. Working at jobs I hated or that simply bled my energy, or where I was just a cog in someone else's machine, giving my best energy, work ethic, and great creativity to someone else's ideas, pursuits, and dreams. For a very long time in my life, mental confusion, not knowing which way to go or what to do with my life, which was really me not yet knowing who I really was and not having the courage to be the real me. But it was also my frustration with not having a system back then for knowing what to do and who I was. Horror movies. Hate, 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 hate them. They stick in my head for months and bring so much negative bodily energy. Cardio. When women fart in public. Call me old-fashioned. Trash and homelessness as a societal problems. Both really disturb me. The list could go on, and if I were to include all of the things that have been on the list, but you get the good feel for the depth of the raw sewage, as well as the triviality of many things on the list. But they're important to me, or were at one time, and so my task is, and always has been, to remove or reduce the presence of these things in my life. The real challenge of life, the task of getting happy and becoming fully alive, now becomes and forever remains making the list on the left longer and the list on the right shorter. It's that simple. It really is. And the raw sewage list requires constant diligence. It is a little different from weekly waxing your car. In fact, I imagine myself constantly scraping the crud off of the grates of my barbecue grill. Great food requires clean grates. That's what it is to be regularly removing the inevitable buildup of raw sewage in one's own soul. It's not a once and for all doing. Why? Because it's so doggone easy to get sucked up into living on the agendas of those people we love or those who have power or influence in our lives. Keeping the grand artery up from your soul clean so that your truest self may rise up from within and be lived in your external life, i.e., so that you may live a life where external life and internal life are fully integrated, requires constant vigilance against the fear of doing so. It requires ongoing monitoring of the raw sewage list. And for most people, the real challenge is on the right list, making and keeping that list of raw sewage shorter and shorter, which begins and ends with something very scary. The single scariest word in the English language. When we're children, the single scariest word in the English language is hearing the word no. No, you can't have that candy bar in the checkout line at the grocery store. No, you can't have that go-kart. No, you can't go to band camp. No, you can't pierce your septum. No, you can't take karate lessons. No, you can't stay home from school. No, this isn't good enough. You need to do a better job. No, I don't want to play catch. And on, right? But when we're adults, the single scariest word in the language is not hearing the word no. Nah. When we're adults, the single scariest word in the English language is, in fact, saying the word no. No, I don't want to serve on the PTA. No, I don't want to come to dinner. No, I don't want this marriage anymore. No, you can't go to band camp. No, you can't have the candy bar. No, you can't go to private school because we can't afford it. No, this isn't good enough. No, you can't keep telling me how to live my life anymore. And on, right? The sheer terror of speaking a real no is something every adult knows, even the most self-actualized. It's just plain hard to speak one's truth, particularly when it means disappointing or hurting someone we love. The fear people have of speaking their truth and doing what they love or really want to do is at its core the exact same fear that is stirred up at the thought of saying no to that which they don't want to do or be. It is fundamentally the fear of showing you who I really am, for it is showing you who I am not. No is a boundary, a fence. No, you cannot come any closer. No, I won't go and do that. No, I won't go past this point. And by showing you where my fences are, I am showing you part of who I am. And the fear in showing you who I really am is that you will not like me if you know who I really am. The fear is that you will reject me, be disappointed in me, or in some way hurt me if I show you my truth and my real identity. Saying no is just scary as heck. And it is particularly scary when spoken to someone who has formerly had power over you, your actions, your words, or worse, your identity. The potential loss and potential pain are far greater when a no is spoken to power or spoken to a love source. But the simple fact of the matter is that life begins at the word no. It begins when you have the courage to begin shutting off the sources of raw sewage in your life. Or at the very least, it means to begin cutting back the sources of raw sewage. Perhaps you cannot, in good conscience, cut a parent out of your life, though many do and wish they had done sooner. But you can stop answering the phone every last time they call. or text because they only called to deliver criticism or drama. Or you can stop going to a family function, or you can erect whatever fence is necessary for you to finally have a modicum of peace in your life, or at least a significant reduction in raw sewage from that source. One of the craziest things happens when we begin to cut out the raw sewage of our lives. It's hard to even imagine if you've never experienced it before, but life begins to get lighter. It really does. You literally feel lighter. It is an actual ongoing experience of lightness. The example I give is, imagine a hot air balloon that has been inflated while still on the ground. The pilot has ropes that he has tied from the balloon to the ground. All of these tethers keep the balloon on the ground. Every time you cut another raw sewage source out of your life, it is like cutting another tether keeping the balloon on the ground. Once the ropes are all cut, the hot air balloon effortlessly rises up into the air. The key word is effortlessly. That feeling of effortless lightness is indescribable, yet inevitable when we have the courage to live deliberately, cutting out of our lives the small, medium, and large negative energy sources, things tying us down and bleeding the life out of us. The single greatest fear in life, fear of the known. Through our young years into early childhood and the years we are just beginning the spiritual journey, we often still subscribe to the common notion that the greatest fear in life is the fear of death. And there is always a great deal to be said for the fear of death. Further, it's difficult to argue against the notion that the fear of death is the Mac Daddy of them all. It's always there, lurking, haunting our steps. But as the great many warriors, poets, terminal illness survivors can attest, fear of death is not the greatest of them all. Once you've truly looked death in the face, you realize that the greatest fear is that of a life unlived. Death is not to be feared, but to be made friends with or to come to terms with. Death is what makes us feel fully alive, for it is offered to inspire authentic life and action today. And based on how many people fritter away their lives in the daily miserableness of cubicle living, saving for ticky-tack houses and manifold forms of consumption and tiny victories over lethargy and the depressing life, it's hard to argue that they actually fear death. They have already chosen inner death rather than aliveness. In those over, say, 40, those who have smelled the first wafts of death, if they really feared it, would they not engage in real living and a greater sense of aliveness? Nah. They fear something else, even more, something that keeps them from action. Further still, how many people under the age of, say, 40 actually live in fear of death? Isn't it our common refrain about young people that they think they're going to live forever? Of course, but they live with no fear of death. They live, often, with abandon and risk-taking. That hardly indicates a fear of death. In the young, it indicates an obliviousness to death. No, death is not the great fear. The other grand fear we are all taught to quiver in the face of is the fear of the unknown. A great many big dreams and bold actions have been subverted by it. The fear of simply not knowing if success will come, fear of failure, and fear of the hardships, hiccups, and hurdles that cannot be seen in advance. All of these are derivatives of the fear of the unknown. If you ask most people, all that cubicle small living is chosen because people fear stepping out. They fear not knowing what will happen, and so they remain in the safety of the familiar. Never ever discount the power of the familiar in keeping people stuck in lives of security. The unknown is a seemingly giant beast. However, it is far from being life's greatest fear. The unknown is what adds flavor and spice to relationships, business ventures, and new experiences. People don't go to the amusement parks and ride roller coasters for the up, they ride it for the down. Yeah, we cling to the security in life, but eventually it bores the heck out of us. The soul longs for adventure, longs for the unknown, the original, the rush of the new. So no, the greatest fear in life is not the fear of the unknown. Sure, the unknown can be darn scary, but it doesn't belong in the upper echelons of life's truly greatest fears. As I regularly tell clients, the greatest fear in life is not what you think it is. What keeps people stuck isn't the unknown of whether they'll succeed or fail. It's not the unknown hiccups, hurdles, and hardships. It's not all the multiple variables they simply cannot control in advance. Nah, what really keeps people stuck is the fear of the known. The simple and absolute fact of the matter is that if you attempt this bold new venture, whatever it may be, you know exactly what your father will say, exactly what your best friend or coworker will say, exactly what your dead mother will say in your head if you even consider doing it, exactly what society will say to you, exactly what your aggressive older siblings will say, and exactly what those bullies from back whenever would say. The voices of them all still run your life. Until you own you, they own you. Rather, your fear of them owns you. It's so blatantly obvious and blatantly terrifying, and that's why you quit before you even begin or can never sustain the effort. It's not about willpower, it's about very specific fears of very known, obvious, imminent criticisms. The greatest fear in life is not the fear of the unknown or of death. It is the fear of showing the world who you really are. The reason you've never really pursued your diamonds is because you know exactly what the world is going to say to you. Specifically, you know exactly what the most powerful people in your life are going to say, and that scares the living heck out of you. Nothing scares you more than pulling the real you up from within you, then reveal it and have it criticized once again, just as it was when you were a kid. It is far easier to be criticized for a fake version of yourself because it is not as real and raw. To show the real you and then eat their negativity is a pill too poisonous to the soul to even imagine swallowing. And you may even think that it's not the fear of what someone else will say, but what you will say about your own self. This is, of course, nonsense. Because no baby comes out of the womb self-critical. No, that critical, condemning voice got put into you at some point by the most powerful person or persons in your life. And so great was their influence that you now own the voice as if it's your own voice. It ain't though, even though you now deafened it and its limitations as if it were. You actually believe that you are your own worst critic. You aren't and never were. That voice that now runs your life was the big lie that got pushed inside of you. It has always been the voice of someone else, likely the most powerful person in your life. And perhaps that voice got transferred from the parent to your spouse or someone else new in your life. But the origin of the lie, the origin of the whole problem, goes back to the very beginnings of your life. In my experience of changing lives, I have seen no greater fear than the fear of the known. It is the known and what has been proven again and again by the power sources in our lives that keeps us from authentic living, aliveness, and effortless existence and flow. The biggest fear that keeps people from the joy of an integrated life, where there is no chafing seam between the life dreamed in the soul and the life pursued in actions and words, the fear that keep people in misery, turning them into walking corpses, already experiencing the death they claim to most fear, the fear that accepts ticky-tacky cubicle living, the fear that suffocates life most effectively is the fear of the words and the wrath-filled silence of those people whom you already know do not understand you, never did, and are more afraid of your actions impact on their own anxieties than any supposed fate that might befall you. And while that external criticism does indeed sting, at least for a moment, it is dwarfed by a greater fear. The sting of their criticism today is a painful reminder of all those underlying messages you got as a kid. You're stupid. You're not good enough. You're fat, ugly, skinny, weird. You're not really wanted. And the real you either sucks or just doesn't matter. Every one of the seemingly minor stings today is fundamentally a further negation of your existence. And when that process began in childhood, as it is invariably started by even the best intentioned parents, it was so debilitating that it bred lifelong fear and the beginnings of a full yet utterly empty life. It is far easier, read less painful, to live with the fears than to walk into and thereby explode the most destructive lie implanted inside your core belief system. For what if it is true that I am no good and don't matter? In the end, your longing for approval of your own life from your former owners is what keeps you dreadfully unhappy and soul-drowningly unfulfilled. This is what's at the core of the great fight for ownership in your soul. Until you can first identify and name them, then relegate those hypercritical voices to a spot of insignificance or even nothingness, you will forever be controlled by them, no matter how autonomous and tough you pretend to be. You will forever remain hidden because you fear them. The real you will never blossom, much less see the light of day. And you will die a little more each day, and the worst part is that you know it's happening. You see it. Regarding raw sewage. Of course, it's easier said than done, and either you're going to be vexed by saying no to the negative energy sources or vexed by standing up for those diamonds you want to add to your life, giving yourself permission to say yes and not back down. I do have clients whose greatest struggle is giving themselves permission to pursue that which breathes life into them. They feel guilty or selfish, but mostly they fear the criticism they know will come. These are the folks that generally require more sessions of counseling for encouragement, strokes, approval, and more encouragement to keep building the things and the paths that make them feel good. What's interesting is that when I first explain this exercise to people, I barely get into explaining the raw sewage when I see a flicker go across their face. Already, they know one thing, usually a biggie or two, that goes at the top of their raw sewage list. People know what their raw sewage is, or at least they know some of it or what or who is vexing them in the moment. More often than not, it is the precise reason they're in counseling in the first place. Of course, removing it is something else altogether, as is digging down to get at the deeper negative stuff really driving it all. Right now, you already know a few of the things you'll put on your raw sewage list, don't you? But the thought of turning off those pipes of raw sewage or even turning them down intimidates you, doesn't it? Scares you a bit, maybe even excites you a bit, but you know you gotta do it. Somewhere in you, you know you have to address it. It's not a have to for anyone else, but a have to for your relationship with your own self. You'll notice that there are certain items that are on both my lists, or related things occupying both lists. This happens to everyone. For example, it's particularly visible in the job that you stay at because you're kept there by golden handcuffs, great pay, but sucky manager, work, or setting. But it can be true in relationships, family, or even parenting situations. In such situations where something straddles both lists, always the goal is awareness, to keep an eye on when some item tips more and more towards the sewage side and shows no signs of relenting. It's when you know in your gut that this thing, this relationship, or this path isn't you anymore. Or it's when you know that even though this particular thing might be on an occasional upswing, its long-term trajectory is that of a declining stock. It's trending downwards, and you know it. It's reading patterns, knowing when a pattern is only getting worse and highly unlikely to change. If you think it might be in the sewage column, it probably is, but you're afraid to admit it, afraid to talk about it, because of course, acknowledging that something is sewage demands then acting upon it. Ugh, doesn't that mere thought bring up a groan to your spirit? But that's what life is. That's what makes the diamonds and raw sewage exercise so doggone difficult. Cutting the dead weight from our lives is just plain hard, and it's scary. Saying no to that which is not you is monster terrifying. Yet it is precisely that which is most necessary. The sewage either has to be completely eliminated or radically cut back. Spiritual life imperatives. The spiritual life and happiness, peace, and aliveness, which are its sought-after byproducts, is first commenced and only successfully endeavored when the quest for more of what you love to do, say, have, be, believe, wear, live in, become, your diamonds, is preceded by and ever infused by the word no, specifically the discipline of and commitment to 1. Stop doing that which you don't want to do, and don't ever do it again, that which you don't want to do. Stop answering the phone when it's a person or persons you don't want to talk to, or who is often negative. Stop saying yes when you long to say no. Stop wearing clothes, styles, or even hairstyles or body styles that are not you. This may seem trivial when backed up against the other weighty matters in this list, but clothing, hair, and body construction are significant statements we make to the world about who we are, quite regardless of even how they are perceived. What you wear is a bold statement, even if it's a statement of your non-authenticity and desire only to fit in. 3. Stop living in places, cities, towns, geographies, and climates that are not consistent with who you are. I have been surprised over the years how many lives are radically changed simply by a change to a climate that is more suited to who the person is. Certainly, location does not solve all problems, or even a majority of them, but living where you feel you're supposed to be can make a huge difference in a person's level of joy. 4. Stop saying that which is not your truth, and definitely start becoming aware of the words that come out of your mouth that disparage you, particularly tapes you've been playing for decades about yourself, such as, "Oh, I'm not a good learner. I can't win. I always get colds or I'm sick. I never like new things. People don't like me. I'm always overweight. I just can't catch a break," and so on. Thought, word, and deed are the orders of creation. So as long as you continue to perpetuate beliefs and words that reinforce a negative self-view, you will most definitely continue to create and attract negativity. 5. Stop possessing that which you do not want to have or that which actually possesses you, i.e. that which costs you your being, saying, and becoming. It's incredibly life-sucking ground when your having supersedes your being, when you have to sacrifice your soul and who you really are in order to have some pieces of wood, furniture, lumps of metal, a car, or brick and plaster, a house. A person can do whatever they want, but to me, sacrificing my being for having is an ill-begotten path based on an ill-begotten belief that things have greater power to bring happiness than does just being who the heck you really are. 6. Stop being, becoming, and stop believing that which you are not. And this is the whopper, because it means cleansing yourself over time of concepts about life, the world, people, and anything external that does not resonate inside of you as truth. More importantly, it means to stop believing things about yourself that drag you down from the inside, the lies and the hurts that were put inside of you by others long ago or even yesterday. The worst sewage. As you might have already guessed, the worst of all types of raw sewage in your life is not the stuff outside of you, but the stuff inside of you. It's not your boyfriend or girlfriend, your BFF, your mom, your boss, or your jerk older sister or brother. The stuff that'll really kill you are the lies, beliefs, and disbeliefs that have been eating you up inside for decades. And this is the really scary stuff. I have had a lot of clients over the decades who have seriously frayed relationships with their family or parents, who have spun out of control with all manner of self-destructive habits, who live in geographies or climates they hate, or who are completely fried from the careers they long ago stopped enjoying. Yet, despite all of these things torn asunder outside them, always the core problem and the most debilitating sewage are the values and the core beliefs inside them, that which they believe about themselves. And what makes this inner stuff really tricky is that most people can't identify the most debilitating stuff on their own, which is of course why I've written this book. Or worse, they think they know what their inner problem is, but usually it's nowhere near the depth of the real truth. What's killing you is way down deep inside, hiding from view, yet driving the whole machine. It's at the root of your ever-spinning mind, your unceasing busyness, your killer depression, or your unrelenting anxiety. He has demons. It could be argued that the whole endeavor of listing and increasing or reducing your diamond and raw sewage list constitutes an attempt to create long-term change in your life by changing your actions and behaviors first, when this entire book has been based on the notion that solely trying to change behaviors, or even starting with behaviors, never changes behaviors long-term. Change must occur at the level of the beliefs first. However, the discipline of increasing the things that breathe life into you and decreasing those that bleed life from you is not, fundamentally, rooted in action, but in the awareness of deleterious core beliefs and the destructive negative self-beliefs of the closed three binary gates. Even the slightest shift in those beliefs, which can come in the seemingly minuscule and innocuous form of doubting those beliefs or no longer seeing them as absolute bedrock truths of human existence, is still a shift in beliefs, which precedes action. And, as we saw in the chapter about a ship crossing the ocean, even the slightest shift in binary gates or core beliefs enacts radical changes by the time it reaches the level of actions. And what's really interesting is that this is one more place where the love cup theories dovetail with the common language and ideas of popular culture. Most of us, at some time or another, spoken disparagingly of someone, perhaps ourselves, by saying something along the lines of, "Well, she has a lot of demons," or "He needs to face his demons and deal with them." But what are our demons? Simply put, our demons are the core beliefs and the binary gates that are working against us from the inside. The real demons that keeps pulling you or your boyfriend or girlfriend down are not outside of you, they're inside, and they're always, yes, always, way down at the level of your deepest beliefs about yourself, which means they're always beyond your sight. 99% of people have zero clue what their real self-beliefs are, and those demons keep devouring you, infusing your life with negative energy day in and day out, year in, year out, pulling you down until life has ended and there is just this long string of monster disappointments. By the time demon beliefs rise up through the level of principles, up to the level of actions, the destruction they wreak on the life of the individuals is immeasurable. Demons are the viruses affecting our lives, which we simply cannot see or seem to ever shake. But the slightest awareness of or change in those demons, even the smallest diminishment, enacts significant changes by the time it rises up to the level of words and actions. Naming the demon and its origin defangs it, removing its power to undermine a life that should be happy and exuberant. The net effect of the Diamonds Raw Sewage exercise. The whole point and purpose of the Diamonds and Raw Sewage exercise is to help you begin to make decisions consistent with the belief, I matter, the real me matters. It is to help you begin to make that diamonds list longer, i.e., more and more identify and live with that which breathes life into your very soul, rather than gain identity from a life cluttered with not you detritus. By taking action consistent with your new belief of mattering, you begin to patch that hole in the bottom of your love cup, the one that has been draining your hope for happiness. It is only by living as if you matter, which itself is predicated on, at least the tiniest of breadcrumbs of belief that you really do matter, that you eventually do matter to you, and eventually to others and to life itself. This is how the old cement gets crushed and new cement gets poured and written in. To do so absolutely requires making that raw sewage list shorter, but not just because of all of that raw sewage is negative energy you're carrying through life and it's dragging you down, bleeding your life energy. No. The other reason for getting rid of the raw sewage is that it creates a safe space to unpack the real you. Do you remember that version of you, the real you of your truest soul that got packed into a box and stuffed deep down inside of you decades ago when you were taught you don't matter? Perhaps you only remember a sliver of it. To feel safe unpacking that which you truly are demands eliminating all of the things and people that created the box in the first place. It requires removing all of the crud that accrued on top of it over the years while you lived in the faulty, untrue belief system. Safe space to become the real you is only created by pushing back the voices that created your fear and self-loathing to begin with. To feel safe hearing your own voice, you got to get rid of all the other voices. The ones that say your voice and the real you just don't matter. The ones that created your self-loathing in the first place. Journaling prompts and meditation. 1. Find a relaxing place and begin to sketch out in great detail your list of diamonds and raw sewage. 2. At the top of your journaling pages, write the question, who or what are all of the people or things that have power over me? What are the internal demons and external power sources that I have not yet named but still have influence over my life? And why do I keep giving them power over my life, and am I ready to take that power back, start running my own life more and more? If so, in what ways specifically? 3. Go back to the list of stops in the spiritual life imperative section. For each section, list as many things as you can that you need to stop. 4. In a relaxed position and mental state, visualize bright, white, sparkling, healing streams of light and energy flowing into your body, driving out all of the impurities and wounds, and exploding the grip of the demons, negative energy sources, and power imbalances in your life. Breathe in and visualize all of those stops leaving your body and leaving your life, floating away forever. 5. Now, visualize the new life of the real you bursting up and out of you from deep within, cascading through and over your life with joy, happiness, and peace. 6. Whisper your mantra to yourself this week. I am free, happy, and alive. Negative energy is shrinking. Positive and beautiful energy is expanding from within me. Bonus tracks. Core readers. Press on to the next chapter. Advanced readers. Bonus track 9. Non-negotiables. I don't give a craps and the power of percentages. Bonus track 10. When positive energy sources turn negative.
Are you ready to level up your astrology game? Join the Alchemist Laboratory by Solar Systems. For just $33 a month, you get access to 10 plus courses, a resource library, manifestation secrets, live Q&As, and so much more. Over $2,300 in value. Transform your understanding of astrology and unlock hidden knowledge. Sign up now through the school app and follow Solar Systems on TikTok and Instagram.
How awesome is this? This is going to be the book we're going to be giving away. It is an autographed copy as well. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Share this out with your friends. At the end of the series, there will be a giveaway for a copy of your own book. Thank you.